This is a program about getting the elements together to create this ship's wheel. Now, down here in the lower right of the page, the artboard, you can see the final product here. It's a circular wheel with spokes. There's 8 of them going around the hub, and then there's handles at the end of each spoke. That is where you would grab hold of this ancient mariner or ship's wheel. There's also a shadow element behind it. You see it's created over here that's slipped in behind. Now it gives it a little bit more edge or construction or decorative look to it that you might want to finish this off with. Here's what the wheel looks like when it is finished with the first stage. Now I've created a guidelines here to actually use to trace your wheel and the hub, and then place in the handle and the spoke. You know, on this side there's also guidelines showing the actual half of a handle and half of a spoke, and then when the spoke is made you flip it to the other side and join them together, and it's called lathing, and you have a full spoke. Now, having looked at this page and seeing the beginning and the end of the beginning, let's get a little closer to the guideline here. I'm going to zoom in on it, and you can see it's centered on the vertical and horizontal guides, and I've actually made a guide or a template so you can trace from that. Now let's make the wheel first, the outer circle wheel. I'm going to come down here and make my color. The stroke is going to be black. Come over here and click on the black so I have a black stroke. Now I'm going to build this wheel with a stroke and then convert it to outline shape so that there's not just a line running down the middle, but there will be something, a control line on each edge of this circle. To do that, now I'm going to go to my circle tool and place it right here at the cursor right here at the center point of reference, and hold down the shift and the option key and click a circle that goes out about halfway through that guideline, because I want my, in this case the stroke is only one line. I'm going to end up with a fill that has 2 lines on each end of it or each side of it. So when I put that there, I get a one point stroke that is beginning to define where I'm going to be with this circle. Now I need to enhance that, so I'm going to go over here to the stroke line, and I'm going to, whenever I use this stroke, to keep it from being sharp edges, I go over here and get the rounded cap and the rounded joint, these two in the middle. Now it's got 1 point, that's the default, so I just start clicking upwards. There's 2, 3, 4, and I'm just going to keep going until I get it about as thick as that circle. Something around there. It's not, you don't have to be absolutely precise, but it's going to be a pretty thick circle. Now you notice that I have the stroke here only. This whole thing is a stroke. I'm at 18 points on my screen here. That means there's 9 points outside the stroke line and 9 points inside the stroke line. I want to convert that to a singular, not a stroke, but a fill that has a guideline, defining line on the outside and on the inside. And that's going to object, down to path, and to outline stroke. Now notice that the center stroke line is gone, and now there's a blue defining line on the outside of the circle, and the stroke has gone from a black stroke and no fill to a no fill, a no stroke, and a black fill. So now I have the outer base of my wheel. The next thing I'm going to do with that black fill is to come here to the center and create the hub. Shift and option key down and pull a certain size hub. That'll be the center of the wheel. Now I've got to get these handles and these spokes, and to do that I'm going to hold the space bar down and slide over to this scheme, or this guideline that I've made for you to follow. Now notice we're only going to make half of it, but we'll then rotate the right half and to the left half, and then we'll join them together. And this is the approximate size or shape of the handle, or at least half of it. And it's very large, so we'll obviously reduce it down when we get to that point. So now I'm going to deselect everything Make sure I've deselected everything I had selected over here and change this with a little curved arrow here so that the stroke is now the fill. The fill is now the stroke. And I'm going to use that, bring it forward, and I'm going to draw then with the stroke and then later change it to the fill. So I'm going to start here at the top of this handle, click and release, and come out here because the top of the handle is somewhat rounded, and I'm going to follow that down so that I've got a round top. It's flat on the top and it rounds down. Then I'll click on the last anchor point and come down here a little ways further, and I've got just a nice curved big round area where you can get your palm to grip on this thing. Then I'm going to click on the last anchor point and I'm going to come inside here a ways. So there's a thinning, but not too thin because you don't want to break this thing off if it's too thin. Then I'm going to come back here to the last anchor point and I'm going to click just slight curve out. And now I'm going to go to a straight line. With my shift key down, I'm going to go, I clicked on the last anchor point. I come here and I click and release, and then I come here and I click and release. So I have a right angle right here, straight lines. And the last one, remember, you start on this guideline and you must end on the guideline so that the last thing you're going to pull is come back to the first anchor point, holding the shift key down, and click on that little zero shows up, and bang, you've got a closed shape. And you want to have it right there so it's straight as you can make it. Now it's a little off here, so what I'm going to do is take my white arrow and click on that and just hit my left arrow and tuck it over a bit so that's straight up and down. And that's important because when we join these together we don't want to have any gaps. Okay, so I've done that, and I might as well draw the other one while I'm doing it right here. I'm going to slide it up here, finger on the space bar, and the hand brings it up. And there's my pattern for half of the spoke. Still drawing with a stroke that's black and no fill at this point. Take my drawing tool and it starts right on that line, guideline, and hold the shift key down and click and release. You're doing straight line drawing to this point because you want a straight edge in which you're going to embed that into the wheel. Now we're going to do some curves. Click on the last anchor point and come here and do an gentle inside curve. Then click on the last anchor point and come out to this point and do a gentle outside curve, as if you were working this on the lathe and turning wood. Don't be too concerned that you're absolutely on it. I just want to have this in and out curve going on. Now the last curve is an inside curve, and you pull it so that it's to that. Make sure your lines are smooth here and there's no gaps that are or bends or kinks in the hose. Now I'm going to click on this last anchor point, hold the shift key down, and again go through a series of straight line drawings so that I'm right angles, and go back up to the top again and close it with the shift key down, and I'll get a very straight line there. That's what you want to have. Alright, now let's do the handle. Hold the space bar down and pull the handle up so that's in my middle of my screen. Now remember, I've got half there. I'm going to select that half a handle, and I'm going to shift it down here with that little curved arrow so that now it's no longer a stroke, it's a fill. Well, it's only half a handle. So we take our reflex tool and we click on that and bring it to anywhere along the side of this half of a handle on that vertical inside piece, and hold down the option key and click once, and you get the reflect box. You want vertical 90 and you want copy, and it'll rotate right there in place. Now notice there's a little bit of a gap there, so I'm going to select it, but it is straight up and down. I'm going to select this half, and I'm going to touch my right arrow and march it over until it's absolutely covered up here. Now I have two halves, and they're overlapping to the point when I go to Pathfinder and hit the Unite button, the Command key down, and hit the Option button. It unites those units together, and it's all one unit. Now you look there and you see, uh-oh, there's a little bit of a line there. I don't need that. So I'm going to go over to my pen tool. Now the pen tool has got a drawing tool, but it also has an addition and a subtraction point. This subtraction, I'm going to come here and just subtract that middle one right there. Bonk. See, the line's gone down, and now there's no interior thing going on there. If I go out of color, Command Y, you can see that it's exactly square around. Okay, back into color, Command Y again. Let's do the thing with the spoke. I'm going to select it and deselect everything else, and then I'm going to change it so it's a fill and there's no stroke, and I'm going to select it. It is selected, so I take my reflex tool, come right here to the edge and hold down the Option key and click once, vertical 90, and I'm going to hit copy, and I've got the other side. And there again, there's a little bit of a gap there because I didn't place it exactly on the line, but that's all right. I select this left half, and with the right arrow, I move it over until it's overlapping. Select both of them. Then with the Command key down and the Unite key and Pathfinder, bang, it melts together. It's one unit. All right, now that I have those in place, I can begin to put them over here onto my wheel. Now, it's obvious they're much too large, so I'm going to select both of them, and with the bounding box, hold down the Shift key and the Option key, and they'll reduce down in size. Something like that. It's good to build them large and then move them over and size them so that they'll now fit to your actual drawing, but you can see better what you're doing when you draw them large. All right, bring the handle over, and the handle's a little bit bigger. It embeds into the black of the big wooden wheel. Shift key and bring it down to about the size that I have in my template there. Okay, so then this comes in and it has to fit right at the 12 o'clock position. See, so the bounding box center handle is right here on the center line. All right, so bring in the other spoke and say, oh, the spoke's a little large. Let's bring it down in size. Shift key and bring it down. Now you want to have the black top and bottom of this, embedded in the black of the wood. So I bring this over here and set it in place, and I'm going to watch and make sure that I'm centered on. If I can't see it, Command Y, go out of color, and select your spoke and watch the center guidelines and make sure that they're right on the center line. Okay, so I have the 12 o'clock position set for the handle and the one spoke. Now let's go back to color, Command Y, and the next part's very easy. Actually, I'm going to go back into Command Y, go out of color. I need to see this spot right here. Now what I'm going to do is select the handle and hold the Shift key down and select the spoke. Now the two are selected, and I'm going to do the rotate tool here. I'll get the rotate, click on that and put its cursor right in the center, not in the middle of the this piece here, not in the middle of the handle, the spoke or the handle or anywhere else, right in the center, because that's the center of the whole thing. Now hold down the Option key. Be sure you've noticed that your handle and your spoke are both selected, and you do that with the Shift key, holding it down so you can get two objects. Bring it to the center, click once. Now it wants to ask you for the rotate. Now we're going to use a minus 45, not the 0, take that out. Now what that means is if it was 90, minus 90, it would be, I'd have 4 handles. With minus 45, half of 90, I'm going to have 8 handles. You don't want to have more than 8, or these handles get in your way when you're trying to turn the ship's wheel. They'll bang your knuckles. Minus means they're going to travel clockwise. If you don't put that minus there, they'll travel counterclockwise. Okay, the first thing is I've got them selected, I've got my angle here, and I want to hit copy because I want the first one to stay in place. I want to copy, and there it is sitting on the, it's rotated from this area right here, and there's the second handle and spoke. Now it's pretty easy. All I hit is Command on the keyboard, put your thumb on the Command key and hit the D key once. There's the third one. Hit it again. 4, 5, 6, 7. Keeping your finger on the Command key and just hitting the D key and go. There's 8. That's pretty simple. That's pretty quick. That's pretty clean. So and if you have everything centered on this thing, they'll come around just fine. Now when I go back to color, Command Y, there's my wheel. I'm going to hit Command the negative key and back off a little bit. You can see I finished the ship's wheel, and that's what I'm trying to do. Now the rest of this decorative thing is, I'll show you how this this outline is made. I'm going to select my whole wheel here, and I'm going to Command G. That groups it together. So now when I select one part, I get them all. And I'm going to pull a copy of this. Shift key makes it, I'm sorry, the selected, and with the Option key, see the double arrowheads, the black and the white, you're pulling off a copy, and just set it over here so it's not touching anything, it's out of the way. Now in making the outline, remember we do this with, there's the stroke is nothing at the moment, and the fill is black. I'm going to come down here and I make the stroke. This is my last color, black, and I'm going to click in there, or I can go over here to the color and find the black. And now I'm looking at my strokes. I have a stroke and a fill. I hit the round cap and the round join or joint, and at one point I start enlarging it. Now watch over here manually and see how far I need to go. I don't want that outline to be too thin, and I don't want it to be too thick. And I'm getting to 10, 11, 12. 12, that looks pretty good. You don't want to get, you can go up here bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and fill it in. That's not going to work out. So I'm going to go back to 12. Okay, so now you have the original shape plus this stroke added. Now we're going to melt all this together, and the way we do that is this, with the object, because we're dealing with an object, down to path, because we're going to change the paths, and outline stroke. In other words, we're going to make the stroke turn into the outline. I don't know why they say it backwards. And there's all the geometry of the computer. It's kind of complicated, and so let's simplify it. Hold down the Command key and go up to Pathfinder and hit the Unite button, and it all melts together, blunk, into one outline, inline. There's a shape that's going around this whole thing. It's all joined together. Let's bring the gray forward, and we don't like it all that gray, so let's make it about a 40% gray in the slide bar here. And let's hit Command, Shift, left bracket, 3 fingers with one hand if you can manage that. And then slide this under and put it behind the initial black ship's wheel and get it balanced so that there's this equidistant all the way around. And when you let go, now you have the ship's wheel. And it's similar to what I've got down here, but this is where we've all put it together. So what I want you to do is to finish off this project with a ship's wheel, 8 spokes, 8 handles, with an outline behind it that acts like packaging on a gift wrap on a package. Here's something that doesn't just let it hang all out there and be just black on white. We could start talking about color, browns for the woods and brass for this and something else, but let's just make a black and white shape here. And that's the completion of creating a ship's wheel from the pattern I gave you to start with, and the outlines to make the handle and the spoke, and then size them and put them together and make the initial one, and then the first copy, and then Command D going around, and you get them all placed. Make your outline and put them together, and that finishes the ship's wheel.